Way back in the turn of the century, they didn't have no darn plastic. Ah, plastic. Oh, how I love thee. Alright, so let me take you on this journey of plastic miniature model prep. Plastic miniatures. Bam! Plastic is my hands down favorite medium. I mean, come on. No one ever got lead poisoning from licking plastic. Ever since I was a little kid, you know, it was the little green army men, the little Airfix figures you buy at the hobby store. So when I found the plastic sets from Sci-Fi Wargaming, oh man, I was in. I just absolutely love them. They're easy to convert, they're easy to work with, they're easy to clean, they're light, they don't break easily. You rarely, if ever, have to wash them. If Jesus was still walking the earth today, he'd choose plastic. Now, the detail's a little bit softer than metal or, say, resin, but the technology has come a long way and the detail's gotten a lot crisper. We've had a lot of questions from you guys and girls about how to prep your Kingdom Death or Shadows of Brimstone miniatures. So here we go. Alright, let's take a look at the tools that we're going to need. First off, you need a pair of plastic cutters. Next, we have our trusty X-Acto blade. You're going to want your round file and then your file with rounded on the top, flat on the bottom. You're going to need some super glue, some Instaset, liquid cement or plastic cement, some paper towel for soaking up excess glue, your standard sculpting tool with a scoop on one end and knife on the other, some Aves epoxy sculpt, I use the natural or gray color, an old cork attached to a gaming base, and a paper clip.
There's one more thing we need to complete the plan. That guy's eye.
We're going to start off with some army assembly with some Shadows of Brimstone figures, the Lost Army. The first thing we want to do is identify how many different poses there are. In this case, there's 2. So I'm going to cut off this pose, and then I'm going to cut off this pose. Alright, this is the part of the project where it's easy to keep the parts separated. So do it now so you don't spend hours doing it later. When cutting off the sprue from the figure, you don't want to get right up on the figure like this. You want to actually be back from the figure just a little bit. This makes sure that there's no tearing or pulling of the plastic on the figure itself. So, if you're not planning on shaving off mold lines or anything like that, you just want to get these things clipped off and glued together as quick as possible, go ahead and take the clippers and clip them as close to the plastic as possible. You'll still have to take your knife and shave off the little nub, but that's the fastest way. I usually clip all the sprues in the same direction on the sprue to begin with. This just makes it faster. It's like a production line. And if you have a lot of these guys to do, it just speeds things up a little bit. Be sure to take a good close look at things. Make sure you're not clipping away. Make sure you're not clipping away parts of the sculpt. And don't lose your pieces. As you can see, there's 2 different kinds of backpacks, but I believe on the other side, the attachment point's the same on all of them, so I don't think it's really going to matter which model gets which backpack. You can kind of mix and match and make them unique that way. Alright, now this is important. Check your sprue. Make sure there's no parts before you throw it away. I can't tell you how many times this has saved my bacon. Don't throw away parts. So you probably always wondered what these quarter-size bags were made for. They're actually made for putting your miniatures in. As a commission painter, a lot of times I'm de-spruing a lot of different models from a lot of different kits all at once. So keeping the different kits separated in baggies really does help. I also label the bags cleaned and in the case of resin models, washed. I'll even put the date on for good measure. Sometimes I haven't finished a particular step, so the labeling lets me know what part's done and what part's not. Alright, so to do the cleaning of these models, we're going to get like pieces together. So all the backpacks, all the guns, and all the dudes. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to production line these. Now what I've found is since these are all the same pose, it's easy to remember how to scrape them where the mold lines are. So basically you're going to shave the left arm on this guy, shave the left arm on the next guy, and so on. Also, try to keep all your cuts going in the same direction. This literally shaves off time in the long run. And since these are for gaming, I'm not going to go totally crazy getting all the mold lines off. You can, if you want. This is just going to be a light mold line removal. You may also notice that sometimes there's little gaps between the bodies and the arms, and there's definitely still mold lines back there, so you want to get at those as well. Hey, don't forget those. So you can see how I'm doing this. I'm just taking a section at a time. So we'll do the next section will be his leg. And what I've found is doing each little section at a time means I'm not touching the model for too long. Did you see that? The magic number is 10. Try not to hold the model for more than 10 seconds at a time. And this will help me keep up my speed. It's kind of a mind game I play. If I try to clean the entire model at once, especially for armies and big squads like this, I will start slowing down very quickly, and that's not a good thing. Sometimes I clean off these little spurs on the bottom of the shoes so they sit more flat on the base. So on these guns, I should actually do it the same way on each one. You just do like half the gun in this direction on each one. And then we'll just do the other direction and then flip it over. And we got the other side. For the backpacks, it's the same type of deal. Let's cut off these little gates on each one real quick. These ones you can probably get away with just cleaning the whole thing. They're small and it goes fairly quickly, but if you find yourself getting bogged down, just shorten it. Maybe just clean one side and then clean the other. Alright, we've got all our parts cleaned up and we're ready to do a dry fit of the model. Dry fitting is super important. You don't want to have glue all over your model and then realize that the parts don't fit. Alright, so you always want to dry fit your models. Here we have our rifle and our figure. And basically he's going to go like this. The one hand goes there, the other hand goes on the other hand. And just make sure everything fits up right. The other thing you want to do is take your file and make sure that the parts that join together are flat. Just remember, the contact point on this particular model between the wrist and the hand was a flat surface. If the contact point was, say, a rounded surface, obviously you wouldn't want to flatten it off. Just keep those surfaces so that they fit together well. So the big question is, do I use super glue or do I use plastic cement? Alright, let's cover some of the glues we'll be using. Okay, so we've got two types of glue. We've got liquid cement. Liquid cement makes a permanent bond by melting both sides of the plastic, and then when you stick them together, it becomes one piece of plastic. The problem with this is it's pretty permanent, so if you want to pull parts apart again, it's going to be really hard. The other thing is, it stinks, and I have a massive headache from using it right now. Make sure to only use it in a well-ventilated area. Next up, we've got super glue. I like this particular bottle because its cap has a little pin in it, and so that keeps the hole open. It doesn't get all clogged as much. Super glue can be used with Instaset. Instaset is an accelerator. It makes the super glue dry instantly. The problem with that is the glue actually crystallizes and becomes a little bit weaker, but we will use that for our advantage. Alright, so here's our other guy, and he's a little bit different pose. Basically his arms kind of coming up like this. Kind of a strange pose. Well, not strange, but it looks weird when you're trying to put it together, so that's why it's always good to dry fit these things. Anytime you have way too much glue, like that's way too much, I just wipe it off. Not all of it, of course. And so the cool thing with this is it is kind of like a gel, like sticky. So you just kind of push it around till it's the way you want it, and then let it go. Alright, we're going to get the rest of these glued up, the arms, and give them a chance to set, and then we'll come back with the backpacks and the bases. So in this one, you notice there's a gap right there. I have his gun tucked higher up, closer to his face. I'm just going to fill that with some putty. I'm using just a little 2-part epoxy. It's Aves Epoxy Sculpt. Works much like Milliput. Just kind of shove it in there. I like this stuff. It's like a natural color. You can get it in different colors, but I just use like natural or gray. Shove it in there. You can do little conversions like that all the time. Just little simple arm changes. And sometimes it gives a little bit of flavor to the army. Now we're going to attach the model to the base. I'm going to actually use some special Secret Weapon bases for these. But for now, I want to put it on a regular base like this, just a plain base. And I want to make it so that it's easy to pop off. So we are not going to use plastic glue because that would be permanent. We're going to use super glue. And what I do is I just put a little drop of glue on one foot. So we're going to put the model on the base, like that. And we'll take our accelerator and dab it on. Now hold it there for a second, because you got to let the accelerator do its thing. And it will instantly dry. But the cool thing is it is a weakened bond, so we can pop it off easy. And since we didn't glue both feet, we can actually get a little leverage pulling it off. We'll do the same thing on this one. I'm going to do this front foot. And usually I don't put glue on the entire foot. I just put it on maybe the front or the back of the foot. So we got that. And we'll set that down. That. Put our accelerator on. Give it a second. Alright, it's on there. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to do the backpacks. I think for these, the backpacks, I want to do a different color than the body. So I don't want the backpack to stick permanently. Now we can do one of two things. We can either take some blue tack, this poster putty that I have here, put it on the back, and shove it onto his back, like that. Problem with this is a lot of times the blue tack squeezes out the sides, and that's not what I want. So what I do want is to glue it, but I don't want to have a permanent bond. So we'll put a very small amount of glue, just a little drop, at the top of the backpack. The key here is a small amount of glue and the zip kicker. You want to be able to pop that part back off when you're done. I do the same thing with my Chaos Space Marines on their shoulder pads and their backpacks. And then we will set the backpack on the guy, like that. Make sure it's in the right spot, how we want it. And then again, we will zip kick it. So in this case, I'm just going to drop a little of this at the top of the backpack, at the top of his back. And hopefully that gets in there and zip kicks it. So what will happen is after we prime this and do our zenithal prime, I'll be able to pop those backpacks back off. Then we'll paint the model however we want to paint it, and then when we're all done, pop the backpacks back on. Alright, and there we have it, the last one. You also might note my zip kicker or my Instaset, I put a base on the bottom of it, and this keeps it from falling over. So I can't tell you how many times I've knocked over a bottle of this stuff and it spilled all over the place, but you simply put a larger base, gaming base on there, glue it on, and you're good to go. You can do the same thing to your GW washes. Bam! So glue a pot to the bottom. Glue a bottom to the pot. Glue the pot, the bottom to the pot to the pot. Alright, we're out in the backyard. It's time to do some priming, baby. Now, one of the really nice things about plastic miniatures is you can prime with regular rattle cans. I use the Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2X, or you can use by hand or by airbrush the Stynylrez primers. But I find that the rattle cans go a lot quicker. You can do the batch painting and do 30, 40 figures at a time. This is really nice for army painting because the airbrush seems to go a little slower. It's better for display type figures. So we're going to prime with the Rust-Oleum, and then we're going to do the zenithal prime with our airbrush. Alright, we're going to stay about 12 inches away and just give it nice even coats. If you notice, all my figures are face down. This way when you flip them over and spray the other side, if any of the paint gets stuck to the base, it will be on the back side of the model. Now see, I'm careful to spray from all different directions. You want to be really thorough here. And then one last layer from above. One quick thing to note, if it's hot outside, be sure to put your models in the shade while they dry. So I always give my priming job a quick once over to make sure that I got everything. If there's areas like right in here between the backpack that I missed, I just put it in by hand with some Stynylrez primer. You can do a zenithal prime with the rattle can, but I prefer to use an airbrush because it has way more control. And for those of you without an airbrush, grab some Duplicolor sandable primer and spray it from above at about a 45-degree angle, from front and from the back. Alright, so one last thing before we get to our recap. You're probably wondering about the whole backpack issue. So we've done our zenithal prime, and the reason why I glued the backpacks on was so that I could prime it all and it would look exactly how I want it. But I want to paint those backpacks a different color than the rest of the body. So what we'll do is, you remember we put the glue at the top but not the bottom, so we'll start at the bottom and just very carefully pop it off. See, they pop off really easily. And then the next step, we will grab a cork with a base glued to the bottom of it so that we can set it down. A little safety clip. We'll grab our super glue with our Instaset. So the first thing we'll do is we'll grab our backpack, put a little bit of Instaset on the actual backpack, grab our pin, attach to the cork, put a little super glue on there, and the Instaset will cause it to bond almost instantly. And that's what we want because it'll be a little bit difficult. There, it's all ready to paint. When you're all finished, pop that off, clean off the glue a little bit, and reaffix them to the model. Alright, so what have we learned today? Number 1, plastic is my hands down favorite medium. Number 2, identify the poses. Number 3, keep your parts separated with little plastic bags. Number 4, keep your cuts efficient, always in the same direction. Number 5, don't clip away parts of the sculpt. Number 6, don't throw away parts, always check that sprue. Number 7, use the production line technique for clipping off those sprues. Number 8, don't hold the model for more than 10 seconds. Number 9, try fit those parts before gluing them. Number 10, liquid cement, glue stuff permanently. Number 11, super glue can be used with Instaset. It creates a brittle bond that can be broken apart later. Number 12, you can do simple conversions by adjusting the arms and filling the gaps with putty. Number 13, secret weapon bases rock. And I'm out. Forget those because I'll be watching.